Hi there. Welcome to a Christmas edition of Ridgway History. You want what? You really want me to wear a hat? Really? Really? Today, early American civilizations and the Mayans. Let's talk about that. Early American civilization and the Mayans have a long and complex past, but today we're going to try to sum it up as concisely as possible in less than 15 minutes. It's going to be a difficult task, but I think we can do it. As always, our mini lessons start out with a couple of essential questions. So first, by the end of this lesson, you should hopefully be able to better answer, does geography determine all of human behavior and civilization? And then second, what traits do civilizations share in common with each other? My students currently are working on comparing and contrasting the Mayans, Aztecs, and the Inca. So that is why we are having this second essential question in there. Again, by the end of this mini lesson, you should be able to hopefully address some of those essential questions. To recall a bit about how human civilizations in North America got to where they were and how people got to North America, you need to recall what I call the tale of a sweet potato and a bottle gourd. American civilizations, we all probably are very familiar with the land bridge theory of how human beings got over to North America. So what they would do is they would follow this land bridge, which was across the Bering Strait here, back during when the Ice Age supported human beings traveling across it. They swept down into North America and finally South America. Now there have been some more recent studies that have possibly suggested that human beings may have come from Oceania, Australia, right here, and then traveled across the Pacific Ocean in boats in possibly what might have been 3 separate colonizations. Again, this is all kind of highly speculative right now, and I've got a dog in my shot. But there is some good evidence that we have found sweet potatoes and bottle gourds in Australia and Oceania and also in South America, but no evidence across the Bering Strait route. I'll post the link to those studies in the description below so you can check those out on your own free time. Before we talk about the Mayans though, I do need you to realize that there's a lot of things that go into the Mayans that I'm not going to be able to fully cover here. So these are things like the Neolithic Evolution, which if you did not know was the discovery of farming, animism, which is a belief system that is common to many Native American peoples, and then also things like Homo sapiens, the Paleolithic Age, the Neolithic Age, and the effects of the Neolithic Evolution. Speaking though of effects of the Neolithic Evolution, I do want to cover these more before we move on, because they are very, very instrumental in terms of understanding early American civilizations generally, not just only the Mayans. So the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Inca were all part of the transition from Paleolithic times to Neolithic times, and that is really the discovery of farming. So with the discovery of farming, there were several key profound effects that you have to understand. So first of all, people went from being food scavengers to food producers because they're growing their own food now. Farming means that people have to stay in one place because farms don't move with you, and so you get the development of villages. With food surpluses, you get more population. And when people start staying together, you start to get to the development of governments because people do not get along with each other. And then a couple other effects you'll want to know about is the accumulation of property, land, food, etc. that comes from food surpluses, which results in class differences or social classes. And then lastly, with more population, human beings start to become specialized in terms of their labor. People can spend time doing other things, which is really, really important for the Mayans especially, and also our Inca and Aztec peoples. Mayan culture, generally speaking, was located on what is called the Yucatan Peninsula. A peninsula is a land, a piece of land that's surrounded by water on 3 sides. Now, how did Mayan civilization develop? Well, Mayan civilization, as we said, developed on the Yucatan Peninsula, and they really were in their height of their expansionary period from about 300 before Common Era to 250 Common Era. That being said, as you can see back on this last slide, the Mayans were composed of numerous city-states that cooperated and competed. Sometimes they traded together, other times they fought. You can kind of compare this similarly to the Sumerians or perhaps the Greeks. That being said, I do have to give a forewarning here that we are speaking broadly about Mayan culture. We simply just don't have the time to go into each individual city-state and break down what was particular to them. So I'm going to speak here for the next 2 or 3 minutes about commonalities of Mayan culture within all the city-states. What were things that you could find in common? And one of those things was slash and burn agriculture, which I'm going to show you a video of. So slash and burn agriculture prides itself on taking very, very dense, thick parts of vegetation and then cutting them down and then burning them to create extremely fertile soil. Now I'm going to skip ahead in the video here so you can actually see people in this area today practicing slash and burn agriculture. And slash and burn agriculture is really, really important because it does allow the soil to be fertile for about 3 to 4 years, maybe 2 to 3 years. But after that, the soil, well, it's basically depleted. So what the Mayans would do, and as you can see the people doing here in the video, is that they would take a large section of vegetation, light it on fire, then plant crops for 2 to 3 years, and then move to a new location. So you can kind of think of this as like a kind of a blend of migratory farming. And again, this is called slash and burn agriculture. Okay, so let's jump back here. Okay, so generally speaking, Mayan culture did practice slash and burn agriculture. And as well, we mentioned before that they traded and fought with each other. Now, as well, there were also social classes within Mayan society. And again, this was a cause of the Neolithic Evolution. Yes, what's your question? I say as well too much? Thanks, Peanut Gallery. So there were also social classes present within Mayan society, and there were generally social hierarchies. There was often a male ruler, nobles beneath him, scribes and artists and merchants were kind of like a middle class. But most people had to be farmers, and this is simply because in order for your civilization to survive, you need a lot of people to grow food. There were also a few slaves in Mayan society. Hi, Jay, thank you. Oh yes, thank you. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. The Mayans also had a writing system, but we can't read it, unfortunately. Their religion was polytheistic and did revolve in some kind of animism-like sense. But again, we don't have many details on their religion because we simply can't read their writing. The Mayans did have notable achievements in astronomy and math, which we're going to note here in a second. And they also had some really cool limestone temples, which I can show you here as well. So the Mayan calendar is often misunderstood in terms of how it works. So everybody's like, oh, 2012, the world's ending. Well, this was one calendar of the Mayans that actually ran out. The long count calendar was 7,885 years long. You also had 2 other calendars. Jamie, you are just insanely in my way this recording session. What is going on? Are you really interested in the calendar? Is your calendar very? You also had 2 calendars, one which was a religious calendar, and then another one which was used more as a civil kind of calendar for planning kind of civil events. And again, all 3 calendars actually interlocked and worked together. So I thought I might show you as well, and I'll put the links in the description below. There's some of the Mayan temples that the Mayan people constructed during their time. This is a temple in Tikal, which is in modern day Guatemala. Anyways, these pyramids again were constructed by hand, which is pretty awesome. We think mostly for religious significance and mostly for people in upper classes. Alright, and Airpano, which is actually a Russian company here, has put together a series of panoramic images that you can go look around. So this right here, for example, is a ground view of the Pyramid of the Great Jaguar. And you can also go and you can also look at more aerial photos, panoramic photos of like the Central Acropolis, which is most of the structures here that we're looking at. You can also do really, really cool things at this site, which again I'll link to in the description, such as zooming in and taking a really close look. But again, we think that these structures were dedicated to religious significance of some sort, and also we know that they were probably for upper class people based on the size and the interior size of the rooms. That being said, it's a really, really cool accomplishment that people were able to do this thousands of years ago before modern day construction methods. Okay. So, I think that's about all the time we have for the Mayans. I do just, again, want to caution you that this is only, these commonalities that we mentioned right here are only a few of the many things that we could know about the Mayans. We just don't because they didn't have a writing system. But again, we're talking about big and broad here about Mayan culture. We simply just don't have the time to go into each individual city-state and what made them awesome. Alright? So, see you in the next video. Bye-bye! That Tenochtitlan looked like at one time. So you'll notice the big, broad causeways that are kind of going through the society. You can see here the Temple of the Sun, which is where those human sacrifices would occur. And as you go around Tenochtitlan, you can definitely tell like building cities was something